Do you have problems? Maybe problems you'd like to go away. Like maybe there's just always been problems in your life. And it seems like nobody else has problems, but in your life particularly, there are problems. So today's episode, you're in luck because we're going to be talking about why life has problems. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
So, Danny, serious question here.
Yeah.
Why why does life have problems?
Hmm.
I mean, you're a philosophy professor.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why does life have problems? Why
Well,
can't
I
I just
mean,
have a problem-free existence?
it would be nice, wouldn't it? The one thing, I guess, like, one, it depends on how you look at it. I guess one way to maybe look at it is like those problems give us opportunities to develop, to grow, to try new things, to, push ourselves out of our boundaries, our limits. Actually, maybe if you look at that in, I mean, I don't know, there might be something there with evolutionary terms too, in the sense that, like, without those problems, we wouldn't have evolved in the way that we did and, like, became, like, smarter and better and able to manipulate the world like we have. Without the problems of, like, faced in science, we wouldn't find new things. We wouldn't be able to develop new things. So I think problems are a part of life, but they can be a good part. They're just a really hard part too sometimes because we all face them and it just sucks when you're facing them?
Yeah, I mean, I can resonate with that. It definitely sucks. And there's been like a couple periods in my life where I thought I had it solved. Like my biggest problems, I got rid of them, and for a day or two, I was living a problem-free existence, and I was like, I finally done it. Like this is it. I've yes, awesome. And then all of a sudden, turns out there's no such thing as a problem-free existence.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny too. I always wonder if it's like, is it like the way we interpret them as like being so bad that's really the problem, with the problems? Because they do exist. They're always there. Like you can't get away from it. Like even when you, like you said, like even if you get rid of all the big things that are bothering you, you find a way around all those things, it feels great, but then something will always come up. Like it always does. Yeah.
I think that our brains just are problem finding machines. They're problem solving machines because that makes them feel really good, but they're also problem finding machines. So like
Yeah.
those days when I didn't have problems, my brain was out there like scouting around like, well, I don't have any problems, but like there's got to be something that's bothering him. What could be bothering him? And cuz
Yeah.
I've heard it said that like the goal of life isn't to have a problem-free existence, is to have problems worth living for.
I like that. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. Yeah. Where you have like a reason. Well, like so many of us, like, right, we're meaning making creatures. Like we want to have a life of meaning. And like you said, solving problems feels great because it feels like we're accomplishing something, feels like we're doing something. Like, and I think maybe that is it. Maybe like we are looking for them because it gives us meaning. It gives us something to work towards that's clear and that we can define and that we can overcome. And it might be really challenging, but it is a way to like kind of keep moving that sort of thing forward. Because imagine if you had no problems at all, what would what would you do? Because that assumes, I mean, in a certain sense, it's like you're doing nothing, you know? Like it's weird, but yeah.
Yeah. I actually heard of like a little brain experiment the other day where it's like imagine you wake up in an alternate reality and all of your problems are just solved. What would you do? And I was just like, oh man, that's good.
Well, then you have the problem of what to do, right? It
Yeah.
automatically comes up. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think we have this skewed, I really do think a lot of it is that we have this skewed idea of life that like we imagine this, and I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it comes from like imagining like people imagining like a perfect afterlife or something like that, where like this like bliss. But like we have this image of like the good life as being this like perfect thing where nothing's wrong, we're always happy. And it's like, but is that life? Because stuff always happens in life, stuff you can't control. Like, we're living things, so people are gonna perish. There's gonna be accidents, there's gonna be problems outside, it's just how it is.
That's I'm glad you brought that up because I've thought about this a lot. I was like, is this a modern condition where people think that life is perfect? Because like I
Yeah.
was thinking about it because back in the day, 100, 200 years ago, 1 out of 5 children survived. Like death was rampant in families. Poverty was this, I mean, there was literally no middle class. Like poverty was pretty much everybody. And so
Yeah.
like all of these comforts that we take for granted, survival that we take for granted, just wasn't there. So I think that like back then you probably expected to have problems, and then if there wasn't a problem, you were like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
this is
you
incredible."
to that point, you want to hear something crazy? I think it was like it wasn't until like the 1940s, I think it was, that they realized that like if a baby has jaundice, all they need is sunlight. Did you know that? Like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
like that late. Like
Uh,
kids were perishing all the time because of that. Like it's crazy. But like stupid stuff like I mean like things like that we
dude,
just didn't know.
or I forget anyway, so like doctors were delivering children after doing autopsies on dead people without washing their hands and
Yeah,
wondering why women died right after childbirth.
yeah,
And it's just
yeah,
like, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
all
It's
this
crazy.
crazy stuff. I mean, who knows what they're going to find out in like 50 years, and they're going to be like, these people were morons who are
Yeah,
living now.
they were just killing themselves. You know, it's like when the
Yeah,
X-ray machine came out and they had it in shoe stores, so, like people could see how good the shoe fit.
I
They were like
know.
just
They're going to be,
injecting themselves with tons of radiation.
yeah, they're going to be like, these morons took a little radiation phone device and put it right in their crotch all day long. Like, what are they thinking?
Yeah, it is funny. Uh,
Uh,
but that's just I think that's it though, right? That's part of the problem of like we don't there's always going to be problems because we don't know the future and we also don't know everything about our world, right? We don't. There's so many unknowns. And then on top of that, there's all these other creatures and people running around doing things that makes more unknowns. So it's like, and I think this maybe it's also like a thing with control. Like we want to control everything. We want everything to be a certain way. I don't know. It's very hard, but like, yeah, we're always going to encounter them. Can't get rid of problems. But I think maybe like there's a lot of philosophers who do talk about it in the sense of like how you respond to them and how you interpret them in the sense of meaning is kind of the important thing. Like, do you see these as something like, do I look at like problems as something that needs to be eradicated, fought, just erased from existence? Or do I see them as something positive, maybe a way to overcome things, to change, to grow, to keep, kind of moving forward, progressing, maybe, a means to achievements, to feeling good, to meaning? I think, if we can shift our perspective, it might make it that, yeah, there's going to be problems, but they're looked at very differently.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's an important distinction is like using problems to become something because anything you've ever wanted to do or become had problems that you had to encounter. And it's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
the problems are generally the things that get you in the direction you want to go, or at least tell you that you're going in the wrong direction. Because like oftentimes when we have problems we really don't want, it's because we're going in the wrong direction and we need some guidance.
That's a good point too. Actually, yeah, I think the biggest, especially recently in my life, like the biggest life changes that I've made have been when the problems have like basically told me that I need to make a life change. You know? When like that's how I finally realized that like this was not working. Like it was just too much, and I realized that I don't want to like I also realized I didn't want to address these problems. Like, does that make sense? Like this was
Yeah.
not worth it. And yeah, so it can also be a good way to know where you need to go too.
Dude, the times when I was the most depressed in life was when I was headed in a direction I did not want to be going. And
Yeah.
I felt hopeless about making the changes to go in a direction that I wanted.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah, just
you
noticing that and being able to start taking steps in that direction, it changed everything.
yeah, but you have that fear, right? That, like I put so much time in, even though this sucks, I know what it is. So there's a sense of familiarity and normalcy to it. But it's like then you have to ask yourself, do you really want to like, is that enough to really live your whole life like that? And the answer should be no. Like, no, that's not good enough. I need to do something else. Yeah, but
Hmm.
it is. I mean, it can be very helpful for identifying, understanding what they're telling you is an important part of it, I think, about like what you really want, because it can be a good indicator of that.
Hmm. So one thing that I think is really important when dealing with problems is actually to like write it down, to like hammer it down, figure out exactly what the problem is. Because oftentimes problems come with like this general feeling of unease, discomfort, all these different things. And it can become somewhat like nefarious. What exactly is causing it? But uh, once you actually like figure out exactly what the thing is, and writing it down is so helpful because you can kind of dissect it as you're writing it, then you're gonna be like, okay, well, this is the problem. So what are some possible solutions? What can I do about it? Just brainstorm. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of that, actually. I love writing things down. I've done it my whole life. And I think it's great because, like, one, it's private, but you get it into the world. Like, you can show somebody if you want, but you don't have to, you know? And, like, but it's also like there is
I'm writing
something.
for posterity. They're gonna
Yeah.
they're gonna publish my journals after I die.
I really hope that mine will be a mess. But yeah, it's like, you know, but it's nice too, because, like, when you do, like, you can really get clear about things. Like you said, like, there's been so many times where, like, I know something's wrong or like I know something's not right for me anymore. But it's like that doesn't necessarily tell me, A, what I really should be doing. Why is it wrong? Why is it really bothering me? What about it is such a big issue? You know what I mean? Like, but when you get clear about it, it can actually tell you, okay, this is the problem. Like, it's not like maybe it's not this specific thing, but it's something about it. I need to move, maybe move or reorient or do something different, or maybe I just need to abandon it altogether and do something completely new. You don't know. Or, and it's like, I think that's such a helpful way to kind of like assess things before you just either commit and just put your head down and live a miserable life, or, make changes that maybe aren't correct for getting things back on course. Because you can't do anything
Yeah,
if you don't know, you know?
yeah, and like sometimes it comes up where the problems aren't that I'm doing anything wrong. It's just like I'm seeing it in the wrong light.
Yeah.
Like I'll be doing something and then I'm getting criticism because it's not the societal norm or something like that. And I'm letting that become a problem.
Oh, dude, those are the worst, right? Because like if you're trying to live your own life, like you're always going to get that feedback because people always think they know what's right. Society always knows best, right? And it's like if you're living your own life, you're going to be against that. And that's one of the hardest things because you have to kind of block that out to realize that you're okay still, you're doing the right thing. But it's very hard sometimes. We're conditioned to, we want to belong. And, so it makes it hard to face that.
Hmm. Yeah. So unfortunately, life's not going to be problem free.
Nope.
I remember there was this story about some guy. He was like a farmer and he heard about the Buddha, this enlightened being, all wise, all knowing. And so he went and he saw the Buddha. And he's like, you know, my life's pretty good, but I have some issues. Like I have a great wife, but sometimes she nags me and sometimes she doesn't do what she's supposed to do. And so it really bothers me. And my kids are excellent, but sometimes they don't listen to me and sometimes they make a mess in the house. And I have this productive farm, but some years it just doesn't produce, and other years, it doesn't make as much as I wanted. And so he's like, "You're an enlightened being. Like, can you help me? How do I solve these problems?" And the Buddha's like, "I can't help you." And he's like, "What? You're an enlightened being. I mean, you're supposed to know everything." And he's like, "Listen, I can't save you from these 97 other problems. I can only save you from the 98th problem." And he's like, "The 98th problem? What's that?" And he's like, "Thinking that you can have a problem-free existence."
Because that's just it. But I think this is something humans have struggled with though forever, really. I mean, it's something I mean, you look at the journals of Marcus Aurelius, you see there somebody struggling consistently with similar problems day in and day out and recognizing, like, I mean, he was at the if anybody was gonna have a problem for existence, it could have been him, right? Like, but he didn't because he cared about and I think this is the other thing. Problems are also an indication that you do care. Like, if you didn't care about anything, you probably wouldn't have problems because it would just roll off you. You wouldn't be interested. Like, but most of us are interested in trying to, you know, develop, grow, achieve things, do things, have good relationships, and that's always going to come with problems. But because you care, there are problems. And I think that's another way to understand it kind of and know. Like, because you care about your happiness or your quality of life, you're going to have problems sometimes because you're going to realize you might be going down the wrong path or you need to make a major change or something. Or like, because you care about your relationship, you're going to have to deal with some difficult situations sometimes. It's just how it is, and I think thinking of it that way is a good way to look at it. Like we can't problem free is just a bad idea. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
It's like the concept of always being happy. It's just an
Yeah,
illusion.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
But it's funny because talking about the Buddha, like he grew up as some type of royalty. He was a
Oh,
king,
he's
a
super.
prince, or
Yeah.
something like that. And so his
His
dad
dad
tried to
protected him.
give him a
Yeah.
problem-free existence. He like all sickness was banished, all old age was banished. all poverty was banished, and Buddha still had problems. He
Well,
didn't like
he
his.
got out one day and saw it, right? Could you imagine that if you never saw somebody who was old or never saw somebody sick, and then you get outside and you're like, wait, what? This
Yeah,
is how the rest of the world looks.
I'm gonna eat one grain of rice for the rest of my life. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, okay, so that's actually, I'm glad we brought that up too. So like, he noticed all these things were wrong, all these problems in the
Yeah.
world. And so then he went on this whole ascetic, where he basically denied himself everything. He ate one grain of rice per day. He like, didn't, I don't know what else he did,
I always
but he
hated
said
that those two words were so close together. You know what I mean?
aesthetic and ascetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it makes it difficult. And so he had all these problems. Okay. Problem. Eat one grain of rice a day. Like, if that's not a problem, I don't know what a problem is. And
Yeah.
you know, problem, sitting under the Bodhi tree until enlightenment. That's a freaking problem. Like, if anybody's ever tried seated meditation, that's a problem. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you try it for like 8 hours or something. Yeah, it's tough. And he just did it for days, months, I think. So, but he had all these problems. But the problems were like the pathway to his enlightenment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way to look at it too, I think. Because like, well, without them, he would never have done it, right? If he had never recognized them, or like if if his father was successful for long enough, he probably would have turned out very different. He wouldn't have, become the person that he did become and then be able to start this whole thing.
He would have
You
been
know?
one of these entitled kids in America.
Yeah. Driving a Lamborghini, running over
Yeah,
things, just not caring.
yeah.
Yeah. It is funny though. But I think this is the issue because I think this is probably why we see so many people who, so aggressively pursue, the capitalist ideal and then don't understand why things aren't perfect when they get there. It's like because you're chasing one thing, you're not really addressing all the other stuff that's makes up a life, a whole life, and a whole life's always going to have issues. Like no matter what you do, no matter how successful, how great, how powerful you are from a societal perspective, you can still get sick. People are still going to die. There's still going to be accidents. It's just going to happen. And so thinking that it's going to go away is just ridiculous. You can't shield yourself from it.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
Mm.
so there you have it. That's why you're still going to have problems until you die. That's the
Yeah.
only time problems are going to go away permanently.
Try to look at them differently. It is hard, but try to see them as both a guide to a better life, I think, a way to understand what changes you need to make, but also as a way to keep developing, growing, and a positive thing too, because they are something for us to focus on and overcome that can make our lives better too.
Yeah, you don't call them problems, you call them opportunities.
Yeah,
All right,
uh,
before I say any
that's
more
good.
dumb stuff,
That's
that's
good,
it
isn't
for
it?
this episode. If you did
Uh,
enjoy this episode, make sure to give us a good review on Apple Podcasts.
yes.
It helps out so much. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.
What a proper